Week 4 of the NHL was an emotional roller coaster. We had former captains going back and being honored by their true fans and teams. We also witnessed improbable comebacks that really no one saw coming.
A shot and that bounces over the top and they score!
Not to mention an injury to the best player in the world has the potential to shake the landscape of the NHL. All of it was a wild mess. So here is what really happened in Week 4 of the NHL season. Sunday, avalanche of problems. Kicking us off is the Red Wings versus the Oilers. Now, both these teams should be way better than they are, but right now, neither team is meeting expectations. Those expectations were really big for Leon Draisaitl after he received a monster deal before the season started, but this game was a prime example of how much he can take over a single match. He scores 2 goals, including the OT winner on his birthday of all days, while McDavid gets 2 assists, and Oilers fans are finally a little bit happy, while the Red Wings fans are shaking their head. Their PK is 31st in the league, along with their shots allowed per game, and this was the 6th consecutive matchup getting outshot. This is a big year for the Yzer plan, and when you hear numbers like that, it's hard to see how they can consistently challenge for a playoff spot if that keeps up. It's still early, but there's lots of work in Detroit. The same could be said in Montreal with their rebuild, but despite some growing pains, they're actually playing .500 hockey and keeping afloat in the Atlantic. They took on Philly in this one, and Mike Matheson and David Savard were just eating pucks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, blocking 11 shots combined on the night. Cole Caulfield also can't stop scoring goals, and despite a late push for the Flyers, the Canadians hang on to win. Now, with the Devils being under potential fraud allegations early in the season, they did what actual good teams should do, and that's beat up on bad teams. They handled the Ducks just fine in a 6-2 win, while Nico Hischier gets his NHL-leading 9th goal of the season. That almost makes him better than Wayne Gretzky's long-lost son in Paul Cotter, who also scored in this one. We also got the circus game of the night between the Ottawa Senators and the Colorado Avalanche. There was only 2 Avalanche goals through 40 minutes, and in the second, the Sens played musical chairs with their goalies. First, Forsberg goes to the bench with a skate problem. That took too long, so then Ullmark came in. Then Forsberg comes back the next stoppage, only to leave 2 minutes later. Ullmark comes back in, and then Forsberg returns once again later in the period. Someone's got to play goalie for the love of God, even if it means that no one wants to stop a puck for the third period. 7 goals between these two teams in the final frame is absurd, but the Avs take the circus game of the night 5-4 over the Sens, who are trying desperately to escape being in the Bermuda Triangle of Mid with Buffalo and Detroit. Unfortunately, that's their second loss in a row, and they fall to .500 on the season. Monday, Stammer returns. For the first time, Steven Stamkos returns to Tampa as a Nashville Predator. It still looks wrong and makes me sick, but the Lightning and their fans give a touching tribute and a long standing ovation for their former captain who led them to 2 Stanley Cups. Stammer gets emotional, Tampa fans are in their feels, but it's time to move on. Tampa gets 2 early goals, but the Preds get 2 back with Stamkos assisting on both. However, it's Nick Pauli-Culkin getting the OT winner to ruin Stamkos' return and give the Lightning back-to-back wins. Now, you're going to want to look away if you're an Oilers fan, because in the very first minute of this game, McDavid gets tripped up, falls awkwardly, and he's got to exit the game. My God, the Oilers announced that he wouldn't return, and then to boot, they get absolutely bullied by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Shout out to Sean Monahan for potting 2 in this one. He deserves the hot start, but the Oilers and their fans should be very concerned. Their penalty kill was so damn good in their playoff run last year and is now last in the league this season, along with their power play only operating at 13%. On the other side is the Cup champs that beat them in the Florida Panthers, getting back their captain in Alexander Barkov against the Sabres. The Sabres have been able to string together 3 wins after a slow start, but when you got Barkov making no-look passes like this over to Reinhart, you know you're probably in for a rough night. Not to mention, Sergei Bobrovsky was making saves without even needing his stick. The Panthers take this one 5-2 and win their 3rd in a row. That's a decent win streak, but it's nothing compared to the 8 wins in a row to start the season for the Winnipeg Jets. The only undefeated team in the league get to welcome in the Maple Leafs, who've lost 3 in a row. Now, every Leaf fan knows that this game was a lock. You lose to the basement teams and then win against the best teams. It's just how it works. So naturally, the Leafs go up 4-0 by the second period, but it just can't be that easy. The Jets would come all the way back thanks to a hat trick from the secret assassin in Kyle Connor, but would ultimately fall short as the Leafs win 6-4 and become the only team to beat the Winnipeg Jets this season. Way to go, Winnipeg. That's all Leaf fans needed to feel like they're back. These parade plans are now on you. Let's talk about the Avs, who have been sick since finding their new goalie in Eustace and Noonan. They got 4 wins in a row, but at some point, you got to play Georgiev. And despite McKinnon absolutely walking Seth Jones,
McKinnon flying into the zone. McKinnon to the front net.
the Blackhawks were able to recover and put up 5 without Bedard recording a point and snap their own 4-game losing streak. Unfortunately, though, for fans everywhere, it looks like the undisputed villains of the NHL and the Vegas injury reserves are looking like they will once again be a wagon. They shut out the Flames 5-0 while outshooting them 38-16, and Calgary has now lost 3 in a row after a hot start. Now, if we want to talk about teams who perpetually fly under the radar, look no further than the Carolina Hurricanes. A lot of fans had them regressing after all their subtractions on the back end this offseason, but they've started the season well and tied at 3s against Vancouver. It's Mr. OT himself who steps up.
Turns back. Wide open is Goss to spare. In front, and they score. Sebastian Aho.
Aho, the Dario, he buries to give the Hurricanes their 4th win in a row and keep the hot streak going to start the season. Now, of course, on Monday, it was our time to do our usual congratulations to the team facing the San Jose Sharks. Today, that lucky team just so happens to be the Utah Hockey Club. A nice, comfy 4-1 lead heading into the third means that this one is over. Right?
Action for the Utah Hockey Club as this one is put home. Granlund's got it, and he scores! Toffoli scores, and he's tied it. Take a shot, and that bounces over the top, and they score!
That right there has to be our underdog moment of the week. I've seen enough. The Sharks are ready for the cup, and Utah may never get that real team name. Who the hell would have picked Jake Wallman to have a 3-point legacy game to fire up the cup run for the Sharks? I certainly didn't, but you might with Underdog's Pick'em game. You can pick higher or lower on stats like saves, goals, and assists. This week, I'm going with Kaprizov, Aho, and Draisaitl to all have the higher on their stats. New customers can actually pair their picks with this Kevin Durant free pick, as Underdog will keep the promos coming all of November. If you want to join, use promo code HockeyPsych in the link below to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and free picks while ensuring to play responsibly. Tuesday, Vintage Ovi. Tuesday night start with the Capitals and the Rangers, and this game right away got started with a heavyweight tilt between Matt Rempe and Dylan McIlrath. The two sort out their problems, and then the attention turns right over to Alexander Ovechkin.
It's a return, wrist shot, score! Protas gets free, score!
He gets not 1, but 2 goals in the first period to continue his chase for Waino's record. He's just 37 goals away, and he's actually on pace this season to break the record. Just crazy consistency from the Russian machine, who looked like vintage Ovi on those goals. But I have to say, what was more impressive was the Caps in this game. They've had a great start to the season, and they dominated majority of this one, outshooting New York 46-19. Their one problem was Igor Shesterkin, who is looking to get paid. He kept the Rangers in it, but ultimately the Caps take it 5-3. Now, if you grew up watching Ovi and Sid, the next game will have you in your feels between the Wild and Penguins, with this most likely being Marc-Andre Fleury's last game in Pittsburgh before he calls it a career. Flower got the start and put up a solid performance, stopping 26 of 29 shots. Sidney Crosby still put up 3 assists, but the Penguins suck, and the Wild take this one 5-3. Now afterwards, Fleury would get a standing O from the crowd, and staying out there for the Penguins were his longtime teammates Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang.
Merci, Flower. The Flower.
Beautiful moment right there, and I'm still not ready for the day that these era of players are all gone. On another note, Tuesday had a couple of spankings, and the first was brought to you by the Ottawa Senators. Usually they're on the wrong side of these games, but they absolutely crushed the Blues 8-1. And that almost, and I mean almost, got Jordan Binnington mad enough to want to fight Linus Ullmark.
He's staring. He said, let's go. He got his gloves out.
He's staring, and Ullmark's trickling out.
A whole lot of posturing between both goalies, but unfortunately, we don't get that goalie fight. Now, the other massacre that took place was between Seattle and Montreal. 10 minutes into this one, it was 4-0 Seattle. A total beatdown of the Habs as Seattle gets a touchdown and goes for 2 to beat them 8-2. That was almost as hard to watch as the Islanders trying to generate offense. Now, I know Islanders fans always give me shit for picking on their team, but I'm trying to help you guys. I mean, come on. This team is in dire need of a shakeup. They only score 1 goal against the rebuilding Ducks, and they lose their 3rd in a row. However, knowing them, they'll probably find a way to squeak into that last playoff spot and somehow convince Old Man Lou to hang on to that core. Another team off to a wonky start is Boston. They got Michkov and the Flyers, but Philly was able to hold the fort in this one. They blocked shots left and right and killed off 4 Boston power plays, while Tyson Forster's goal in the second period would be all that Philly needs to shut out the Bruins 2-0. After that loss, Boston is somehow last in the Atlantic. That's something that you don't see every day. Now, our final game of the night saw the Sharks hosting the Kings. And this is a reminder to set your alarm tomorrow for work so that you don't end up like Kevin Fiala. He was a healthy scratch after missing a team meeting due to a late alarm. Unfortunately, it looked like the Kings could have used him here, though, as they struggled to score against the new juggernaut Sharks. Yep, you're damn right. The Sharks are juggernauts, and it's time that we accept it. Vanacek stops 26 of 28, and the Sharks win their 2nd game in a row to start the greatest in-season turnaround that we've potentially ever seen. Wednesday, Jet rebound. Before any of the games started on Wednesday, the league got news that Connor McDavid will miss at least 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle injury. That was like sending out the bat signal for Kucherov for MVP. This guy slices through the defense and goes end-to-end like butter and then throws a no-look pass to Gensel for a beautiful tuck for his first of 3 points on the night. The reigning MVP Nathan MacKinnon also heard the news and picked up 2 points of his own, but the Lightning get a solid performance from Vasilevsky as he stops 33 of 35 and they win 5-2. Now, the Jets were responsible for reinstating the Leafs parade, so they were looking to bounce back against Detroit, and did they ever. It's the secret weapon that no one talks about, and Kyle Connor putting up a goal and 2 assists, and the Jets continue to roll over the Red Wings 6-2 to improve to 9-1-0 in the season. Detroit loses their 3rd straight, and early on, they just look like a team that's stuck in the mushy middle. Not good enough to win, not bad enough to tank. The worst spot you can be in, it's still early, but I'm sure it's all part of the Yzer plan, so it's all good. Also, in case you're wondering, the Islanders got shut out again. This time it's against Columbus, who have actually been playing decent with all things considered, but that's already the 4th time this season the Islanders have been shut out. No honor, there will be no further questions on this Islander team moving forward. We also had a couple of teams looking to bounce back after losing to the juggernaut Sharks in Utah and LA. Utah had the Flames, who were celebrating their captain Mikael Backlund's 1,000th game. He gets out there, does the solo lap, but the rest of the team comes out flat. Utah jumps out to an early lead, and after being up 4-1 again in this game, the Noivs started to get going a little bit after Calgary scores 1 to make it 4-2. But they avoid a repeat of what happened in San Jose and finally snap their losing streak. The Kings, however, had to jump back in against another juggernaut in Vegas, but after playing the Sharks, everyone else just seems so easy. So much so that you got the 21-year-old Brant Clark hitting spinoramas.
Slides it across. Oh, what a move! Kopitar scores!
He feeds Kopitar on a platter as both of them have 3-point nights to sink the Golden Knights 6-3. Finally, we had the Hughes Bowl. All 3 brothers are in action, but Jack Hughes would shine the most. He gets a goal and an assist in this one, and it wasn't even close. The Canucks struggled big time defending the Devils off the rush as 4 goals came off the transition for New Jersey. He sure has his league-leading 10th goal, but the attention shifts on to what's going on in Vancouver. Elias Pettersson has 4 points in 9 games, and ever since signing that monster deal last year, he just hasn't been the same player. If that persists, we may do a deeper dive onto his game, but there's been a lot of noise around him and his production as of late. JT Miller said afterwards that there wasn't enough FU in their game, and he's right. If they don't turn it around quickly, they'll be playing catch-up for the rest of the season. Thursday, Boston meltdown. One team who's been riding the struggle bus early is the Boston Bruins. The season started upside down for them with the whole Swayman contract, then things got a little bit spicy between Montgomery and Marchand, and now they find themselves last in the Atlantic. They meet the Carolina Hurricanes, who've been just buzzing to start the season, and on Halloween, the scariest way to start this game was to let in 3 goals in a 52-second span in the first period. Halfway through the game, the $66 million man in Jeremy Swayman had allowed 6 goals for him to get the yank. And to make it even worse, Boston only had 7 shots by the end of the second period. A complete beatdown on the Bruins by a Hurricanes team that has looked damn impressive to start the season. That 8-2 win is their 5th in a row to keep Boston in the basement of the Atlantic. Habs fans love to see something like that, but they have their own reason to worry facing the Caps. After a scoreless first, both teams scored 3 times heading into the third. That's just lovely imagery, but suiting considering the Habs let the Caps score 2 straight goals 36 seconds apart in the opening 5 minutes of the third. Our OV goal tracker also shows that he scores again, and the Russian machine is on pace for 45 tucks this season to beat Gretzky's record. We could potentially witness history this season, but a Habs and Bruins loss means that Leaf fans are on cloud 9, and watching Nylander put up 2 goals in their second straight win this week indicates that things are starting to look good again for Toronto. But let's just wait until the end of the week before we declare anything. Meanwhile, in the Metro, both the Penguins and the Flyers have had brutal starts to the year. But on Halloween night, each had a hero step up late in the game. First, tied at 1 between the Flyers and the Blues in the dying minutes, it's Bobby Brink with the great name and also the game winner.
Brink to Barry to Brink. He's done!
Then the Penguins had things get a little bit closer to the chest in OT, but like always, there's one man in Pittsburgh who usually saves the day.
Crosby, he's alone. Sidney Crosby, score!
Sid the middle-aged man looking like Sid the Kid once again. He buries an OT to snap a big 6-game losing streak for the Penguins. Now heading over to the West, life goes on for the Oilers in their first game without Connor McDavid. Lucky for them, they still have their own half of the two-headed monster in Leon Draisaitl, who's doing his own version of ringing the doorbell on Halloween night.
Draisaitl, you heard the post. It's in! It's in!
He goes posting in, trick or treat, try and stop that. He's got 2 goals and an assist in a big 5-1 win without McDavid. Finally, it was the Chicago Bedars versus the new juggernaut Sharks. Something is starting to brew here in San Jose as the rookie Will Smith, no, not the guy who slapped Chris Rock in the face, but instead the young stud for the Sharks who's looking to make his first big impact in the NHL.
Score here in the first period. Just over 6 minutes played, and Will Smith scores his first National Hockey League goal.
Welcome to the show. Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of San Jose, is here, and he does his own slapping by getting a second of the game for that to be the game winner as the Sharks win 3 in a row to end Thursday night. Friday, Global Series. The NHL's Global Series is back between the Stars and Panthers over in Tampere, Finland, and all the Finns in this one put on a show. First, Captain Barkov shows his Finn, no pun intended, by going low glove on Ottinger. He had a monster game in this one, putting up 4 points in his hometown, and then Anton and Uncle Lindell got on the board along with Nico the Ricola Mikola as the Panthers put up 6 against the Stars team that just usually doesn't let that happen. Now let's head back to America as the Sabres and the Islanders were going toe-to-toe, and blowing leads have been a professional skill that the Islanders have mastered lately. So when it was a 3-1 lead for New York, naturally, everyone was starting to feel a bit tight. But there was a scary incident in this one as defenseman Mike Riley takes a big hit by Jordan Greenway. But it's not actually the hit itself that does the damage. It's his head hitting the ice on the way down. They had to bring out the stretcher, but he was able to get some help from teammates and eventually skate off with some help. The rest of the game went on, and despite a late push for the Sabres, J.G. Pageau gets the game winner for the Islanders, and Buffalo continues to be wildly inconsistent to start the season. Now, the opposite of that is Igor Shesterkin. For the second time this week, the Rangers got completely dominated, this time by the Ottawa Senators. The only issue, again, is that Shesterkin is playing like he's in the Matrix.
And it's a... Oh, what a save! Shesterkin with an unbelievable glove save!
This sick freak stops 40 of 41, and here's a live look at Igor talking to the Rangers after the game. The man wants to get paid, and right now, the way he's playing, he deserves it. The Rangers are now just 1 point out of the top spot behind the Devils, and New Jersey had the Flames, who've been on a slip and slide, losing 4 in a row. So here's the formula of how to break out of that. First, get Ryan Lomberg to beat the brakes off of Nathan Bastian. Check. Second, get a solid performance from your depth. Blake Coleman gets 2 goals in this one, so that's a check. And finally, have your goalie stop everything that's thrown at him. Darth Vladar stops all 22 shots to blank the Devils and officially get them off the schneid. Meanwhile, the Jets continue to run Canada and really the entire league. Nick Ehlers gets a hattie in this one, but how about this play by Cal Connor? Watch this. He goes first touch, slips it through the legs, waits for this defender to go belly to ice. He's got this defender looking like Patrick Starfish, and then he slips it over to Velarde for the finish. What a filthy animal this guy is. Cal Connor, the secret assassin. Tell all your friends. This guy is unbelievable, and the Jets go 10-1-0. Now to finish it all off, let's get nuts with the Wild and Lightning. First, I've never seen this before. Two players are chasing the puck, and behind the net, there's another puck in play. Stripes is sleeping on the job, not picking up the pucks after the whistle, but the superstars definitely weren't. Gensel, Kucherov, and Faber all had solid nights, but the man who stood out was Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov. He gets the late game winner in this one and sets a Wild franchise record with his 7th straight multi-point game. Minnesota wins to improve to 7-1-2 on the season and get one step closer to being officially considered a wagon. Saturday, hockey night. The second half of the Global Series started off nice and early, but it finished with a similar result. The Panthers sweep the Global Series from the Stars, making it the first time this season that Dallas has lost 2 games in a row. That stat alone should tell you how good both these teams are, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of them are the last one standing at the end of the season. Now, after being shut out at home against Philadelphia and a blowout loss in Carolina earlier in the week, Boston came out with a purpose and hit the Uno reverse card on Philly by shutting them out 3-0. The roller coaster of a season continues for the Bruins, and surprises kept on coming as Washington completely unloaded on the Blue Jackets. They score 5 goals in the first period, and you guessed it, Death, Taxes, and Ovi hammering one from the top of the circle to score a goal. The 39-year-old looks like a spring chicken with 13 points in 10 games, and he's just one of the many elements that look great about Washington right now. I love this play here of him busting it back on the back check, even though the Caps are up 6-2 in this game. He's 39 years old. He's done everything in the league, and as the captain, he's still leading by example. His counterpart in Sid the Middle-Aged Man is doing the exact same. He scores twice against the Habs and year 20, and he's still doing everything he can to carry the damn Penguins. The game ends 3-1 for Pittsburgh and becomes a total circus at the final buzzer with both teams scrapping. Love that. And what I love more is this save from Alex Tuch. I know a damn good road hockey goalie when I see one. That right there is him channeling his inner Dominik Hasek to keep the puck out. Great play. However, it's still the same old story with both of these teams as they can't escape being so mid. In this game, though, it wasn't the case for Detroit as the captain, Dylan Larkin, comes up big, scoring twice in this one to get a massive 2 points over the Sabres. That means a lot more considering that the Senators took care of business by shutting out the Kraken. The Sens may be hovering around 500, but at times they look pretty damn good. And if they get it together, they honestly might have a real shot of finally making the playoffs. Now, everyone in the Atlantic is probably very happy to see that the Leafs just can't beat the Blues. For all of that offensive talent that the Leafs have, they went 0 for 4 in this game on the power play and are dead last in the league, operating at 8.8%. That is abysmal. You can be the best 5-on-5 team in the league, but in the playoffs, you still need your special teams to come up at big moments to score big goals. If the Leafs can't get that going, then I'm sorry. There's just not going to be a cup parade. Meanwhile, in the West, the Kings are just seconds away from trying to fight off the Blackhawks from a last-minute comeback, but things just don't go according to plan.
Held in Jones for Donato, who centers. They score! Bertuzzi
gets a late one to force OT, and this one inevitably goes to a shootout where Ryan Donato sends Darcy Kemper into the shadow dimension with this filthy move, and the Hawks complete the comeback. Now, two players who stayed red hot Saturday was Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. Both these guys had a goal and an assist against the Preds and have had at least 1 point in each of Colorado's 12 games this season. Too bad it ain't enough to beat the Preds as the Avs lose their third straight. The Sharks, on the other hand, are actually looking to win their fourth straight, and they kept their dream alive with Mikael Granlund scoring the game-tying goal with 1 minute and 17 seconds left. The Juggernaut Sharks are a whole new animal, but of course, not all good things last forever.
Garland in the slot, and they score!
It's Pia Suter again, and now the Canucks lead with 25.7 to go.
The Canucks pull a fast one on the Sharks and win 3-2 to end the Sharks' very quick reign over the NHL this week. A little bit of progress, but they are certainly a long ways away from a team like Vegas, who have been undefeated at home this season. Outside of the Jets and Stars, they look like the other really dangerous team to come out of the West early on. But despite that, Utah was able to get a late goal from Alex Kerfoot to force OT, but rule number one of Vegas is that the house always ends up winning.
And now Howden cutting in, cuts out in front of Backhand, and he scores!
Vegas wins it and stays a perfect 8-0 at home to end a very busy week of NHL hockey. So, what did you think of week 4 of the NHL? What pissed you off? What surprised you? Let us know in the comments down below. And of course, if you want to see some of our deeper player and team breakdowns from this past week, click on any of the links here and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one.